involving a man and a woman found on Annie Baxter Street in Joplin.
We've got an absolutely beautiful day for us across the area, but storms are on the way later this week and some windy conditions. The latest coming up.
And how the worst inflation in 40 years is affecting mortgage rates.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Police identify the 2 victims found dead in a Joplin home Monday night. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, Sergeant Andy Blair with the JPD says autopsies are scheduled for today for both Stacy Rush from Joplin and Eric Stampley from Grove, Oklahoma. Both 35-year-olds were discovered dead shortly after 9:20 Monday night inside the home on 2200 block of Annie Baxter. Officers also found a 9-year-old in the house. He was not injured. Witnesses say they heard gunfire just before authorities arrived. You can follow this story on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Nearly 2.3 million 2.3 million Oklahomans are registered to vote ahead of next Tuesday's general election, and that's an increase of more than 77,000 registered voters since January 15th, and a net increase of more than 175,000 registered voters since November of 2018. Oklahoma's voter registration statistics show registered Republicans now make up a little more than 51% of Oklahoma's registered voters. It's the first time official voter registration numbers show Democrats at less than 30% of registered voters. As recently as 2014, Democrats were Oklahoma's largest political party. With just 6 days to go before Election Day, some big-name Democrats are out on the campaign trail. As the latest CBS News Battleground Tracker poll shows, Republicans currently in a good position to win a majority in the House. Natalie Brand reports from Capitol Hill.
In one of the fiercest races this midterm season, former President Barack Obama rallied in Nevada for incumbent Senator Catherine Cortez Masto. The Democrat is fighting to hold on to her seat against the state's former Attorney General, Republican Adam Laxalt.
The only way to make this economy fair is if we, all of us, fight for it.
While the economy remains the #1 issue for most voters, top Democrats are also making the case in their closing arguments that democracy is on the line.
Democracy is on the ballot.
Today, the former president heads to Arizona, another one of the 5 states with neck-and-neck Senate races. He will campaign with Senator Mark Kelly and gubernatorial candidate Katie Hobbs.
The stakes could not be higher.
Hobbs is locked in a close race with Republican Carrie Lake, who campaigned last night with former Trump advisor Steve Bannon.
Arizona has a rendezvous with destiny.
With concern high about voter intimidation, a federal judge granted an emergency order that limits election monitors in Arizona from certain activities, including taking photos and carrying firearms near ballot boxes. And in the key battleground of Pennsylvania, the state's Supreme Court ruled Tuesday that officials cannot count votes from mail-in or absentee ballots that don't have accurate handwritten dates on their return envelopes. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
President Biden is expected to deliver a speech tonight on threats to democracy. And we do have breaking news to report this morning. After a nearly 4-hour standoff between authorities and a person of interest in the 2 Annie Baxter death investigation case, the person of interest in that case has shot himself. And we will have more information on this a little bit later in the show and on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. Thank you. Now to weather.
Warm. It's warm in here. And I just found out why. I'm not sure how or when, but the air conditioner got shut off. It was turned off. That's weird. Yeah, that was a little bit strange. So it's a little bit toasty in here under these lights. We've got a very nice day. This is 7th in range line. You can see these are the afternoon clouds we were talking about. We're going to get these clouds through, and then we're going to return to those mostly clear skies. We are supposed to be sitting at 64 and 42, and we are not quite at that point. In fact, let's take a look at temperatures across the area right now. Chinook, for example, that's not 64. That's a little bit above, 71. 68 in Pittsburgh, 67 Lamar, 67 Carthage, 70 in Joplin, and 67 in Veneta at the noon hour. Now, for planning your day, we're still looking for a high of 76. We're at that point right now where we can get some of those more partly cloudy skies, but they'll clear out, giving us mostly clear skies. We're 70 at 2, 69 by 5, and 61 by 8 o'clock tonight. We do, however, have some shower and thunderstorm chances and some very gusty winds. We talked about it all morning long, and we get into our complete full forecast here in a few minutes. We'll dive deep into exactly what we're looking at. But as we head into the weekend, if you're away from your TV, scan this QR code right now. I don't know if you're away from your TV now, but scan that QR code, go to your favorite app store, search for KOAM Skywatch Weather. That way, you've got our weather app, latest forecast, radar data, severe weather alerts. That way, if you're doing anything, say Friday evening, and you're away from your TV, Skywatch Weather app will keep you informed. And we'll talk about what we're expecting this Friday and Saturday and into next week here in just a few minutes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And, you know, it's kind of fitting that it was warm in here because it's warm outside, too.
Yeah, it was starting to get a little bit strange. I was like, it's a little too warm in here. Something's not right. So I went and checked, and yeah, no, somebody turned it off. Somebody thought they were funny. I don't know who, but somebody did.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Well, the Federal Reserve is expected to raise interest rates by another 0.75 percentage point today. Regulators are trying to bring down the worst inflation we've seen in 40 years. But that policy change has pushed mortgage rates above 7%. As Nancy Chin shows us, the rising cost of borrowing is hurting home buyers and sellers.
You want one more treat?
For about a year, Andrew Till tried to sell his New Jersey home in search of more space.
So we've had a lot of activity and a lot of offers on the house when we had it on the market.
But even after 10 lucrative offers, he and his family took it off the market. He says there are few options for them to buy a new house, especially after refinancing their mortgage in March to below 3%.
You've been looking to sell. Why haven't you?
Our interest rate right now that we have locked in is very low, so our borrowing costs would more than double.
With today's rate, a monthly mortgage payment on a $400,000 home would cost you about $750 more than the start of the year.
So I would describe the housing market as sort of a tug of war between buyer and seller. And that tug of war is almost creating like a shutdown.
Stacey Esser is a realtor in the New Jersey area.
It's not that we've never seen 7% interest rates. It's that we've never seen interest rates in basically 1 year go from 2.5% to 7%.
About 60,000 deals have been canceled so far this year, the highest share on record since the start of the pandemic. And new listings are down about 19% from a year ago.
What is the end game to all this?
I think we're going to see way less transactions in 2023. I think people are going to be sitting on the sidelines until things settle down.
Till says he'll wait until then.
We just wanted to see if we could, strike while the iron was hot. It didn't happen, and we're happy here.
The housing market is a leading indicator of whether the nation is heading into a recession, and it could contribute to one. Fewer homes being purchased also means less construction, as well as people buying fewer items like appliances, and that could all have huge ripple effects throughout the economy. Nancy Chen, CBS News, New York.
Well, sales of existing homes have dropped for 8 straight months. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon. Today is your last chance to buy winning tickets, a possibility of a winning ticket to the dream of $1.2 billion jackpot. And later, Howard shows us how to make a Salisbury steak with no fuss in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. Powerball fever is sweeping the country with the current jackpot, now the largest prize in more than 6 years. As William Lajeunesse reports, folks are lining up to get their shot at becoming the next billionaire.
I'm going to buy me a house. I'm going to pay some bills off, pay my son's college off, help the needy.
$2 buys you the right to dream about winning the lottery, and folks across the country are plunking their money down, hoping to hit a gigantic jackpot.
Hopefully this is the winning ticket.
Wednesday's Powerball jackpot stands at least $1.2 billion, making it the second largest Powerball in history. And that number is expected to increase before the numbers are pulled. The prospect of all that cash sparking lottery fever in 45 states, Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands.
I mean, I don't think I'm going to win, but I don't necessarily think I'm not going to win.
But if you actually win the $1.2 billion prize, fact is you'll only be a billionaire for mere seconds. The IRS automatically takes 24% of the purse, and you'll still owe more at tax time. Plus, that $1.2 billion is what you'll get if you take the annuity, stretching the amount over 29 years. If you take the cash, which most do, you're looking at just under $600 million. The odds of winning are about 1 in 292 million. That's about the entire U.S. population. Still, many are feeling incredibly lucky.
Don't want to be the one that missed out. It turns into a cultural event. You just kind of want to be part of it. Say that got your ticket, gave it a shot.
I might just have to give it a shot. The next drawing will be held tonight. All right, still to come on the KOAM News at Noon, Mr. Food.
I'll admit it, I love diner food. Whether it's a homemade soup, a mile-high pie, or a comforting main dish, diner food just hits the spot. Join us today as I share one of my favorites.
But first, we have got some rain on the way and warm weather and windy conditions and a bunch of other things, and we're going to get to that coming up. We've got some gusty winds ahead of us. We've got some rain ahead of us, and we've got warmer temperatures next week ahead of us too. So let's start with the wind, shall we? So gusts today could be about 20-25 miles an hour. As we head into tomorrow, here's another fun one. Gusts pushing upwards of about 40 miles an hour. And as we look beyond that, gusts once again Friday early morning about 30 to 35 miles an hour. And you can see here's our cold front. This is the culprit for our showers and thunderstorms heading into Friday. This is also the reason why some football games for Friday have been moved up to Thursday. And of course, we've got more information through KOAMnewsnow.com and through our sports director, Jacob Leonard. But look at some of these projected wind gusts. Look at Joplin pushing wind gusts upwards of 50 miles an hour ahead of the front. And the thing to keep in mind is these wind gusts are not this is not talking about thunderstorm wind gusts. This is simply saying wind gusts. Let's say there was just the cold front and no chance of rain with it at all. We're just talking straight up wind gusts pushing upwards of 50 miles an hour across the area. And then, of course, we have the chance of the thunderstorms on top of that. Rain Tracker is continuously updating. We get new data every time, and we are watching it, and we are keeping an eye on the storms as they get closer. But here you can see we've got ranges anywhere from 1 to almost 3 inches now in terms of rainfall possibilities. It has been kind of all over the place. These are just projections. And as we get closer to Friday's rain event, we'll know more about what the expectation is. Here are some clouds, not rain related out there at 7th and Range Line, but these are some passing partly cloudy skies. They're going to move on through, kick out of here, and we'll get back to mostly clear skies. 70 in Joplin, south-southwest wind at 16. Temperatures across the area, not too bad. 67 Neodesha, 71 in Chanute, 68 Pittsburgh. We're looking at 67 in Lamar and Carthage, and 65 in Anderson, Neosho, and Monette. So pretty decent, above where we should be, but at least it's not, 12 degrees outside, because we've seen that happen too. Going through today, we'll still be mostly clear. 76 is the expected high, pretty darn toasty. Heading into tonight, we'll have increasing clouds and a fun phenomena here, where we're going to hit our overnight low early in the morning, say around 2 a.m. of 56. And then with the south breeze continuing to increase, bringing in some extra warm air ahead of the cold front, we start to warm up as we head towards sunrise tomorrow. So now, the future track. This is Friday at 5:30 a.m. Cold front is back here across central Kansas, slowly making its way our way. Ahead of it, scattered showers and thunderstorms. We get a decent line going later in the evening. So we're looking at showers and thunderstorms, say as early as maybe 10, 11 o'clock tomorrow. And then we'll be more organized with a good line of storms possible as we head into the evening, say around 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. But those showers and thunderstorms will kick out of here very quickly by Saturday morning. We're talking 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. They're gone. But they'll leave us with some cooler temperatures. 59 on Saturday, 67 on Sunday. As we head into next week, we warm back up, and we get close to 80 degrees by the middle of next week. But as you can see on Thursday, it's a slight chance, but there's additional shower and thunderstorm chances on the way in. They're going to bring our temperatures down yet again. But look at some of these overnight lows. Thursday night, 64.
Wow.
And then we drop back into the 40s, and then we're back into the 60s, and then we're back into the 40s, and that's just the overnight lows. So we're in kind of a weird pattern yet again. We're trying to get fall in here. It just hasn't really settled in yet. But we are getting rain. We're getting more and more chances of rain on here, and that's better for us.
I don't mind spring-like temperatures, as long as we don't need to bust out the AC too much.
And I don't think we're going to. Now, I mean, granted, maybe for some, this pushing 80 might be a little hot. I've told you before, our house sits in direct sunlight all day long. So temperatures like right now, as long as the sun is out, it's going to be toasty in that house, and we might need the AC because there's no shade around it.
There you go.
For most people, it should be all right.
All right, sounds good. All right, thanks, Chris. We take this time to honor today's fourth-state hero, Captain Kevin Beasley in the U.S. Army. The Girard, Kansas native earned the Bronze Star while serving in Korea and Afghanistan beginning in 2003. To Captain Kevin Beasley, we thank you, our fourth-state hero. Well, today's recipe is not only delicious, but it's also no stress and no fuss. Howard shows us how to make a no-fuss Salisbury steak in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
As I travel around the country, two of my favorite things to do are meeting folks like you and visiting many of the diners that are scattered throughout our country. And although I have lots of diner favorites, the one that really stands out is a classic Salisbury steak. And if you're not familiar with it, it's a cross between a hamburger and a meatloaf smothered in gravy. Here's how to make it. We start by combining some ground beef, chopped onions, breadcrumbs, and a bit of salt and pepper. After mixing it, we shape it into 4 patties that look more like a football than a traditional burger, and then we sear them. Now we take these out, and in the same pan, we cook some mushrooms and onions. Once they're tender, we'll add some beef broth and Worcestershire sauce. We let this come to a boil before putting the patties back in. All that's left to do now is let everything simmer before thickening up the sauce. This looks diner perfect. Serve it up with some curly noodles or mashed potatoes for a complete meal. You can find the recipe for what we call No Fuss Salisbury steak on our website. I know you're going to love it. I'm Howard in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a diner dinner way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
All right, and we have more breaking news this morning to report in connection to the death investigation on Annie Baxter Street in Joplin. This case, according to the Joplin police, is being worked as a double homicide. During the investigation, Joplin police detectives identified a possible suspect and had been working on leads involving that suspect. Now, the suspect, we're told, was involved in an incident in Newton County earlier this morning with the Newton County Sheriff's Office. Joplin police detectives responded to assist, and during the incident, the suspect received a self-inflicted gunshot wound. That suspect is currently in critical condition at a local hospital. The suspect will be identified pending formal charges. Further information will be released as it becomes available. We'll be right back.
Showers and thunderstorms still a possibility Friday and Friday evening. Some of those could bring us some heavy rain. Some may be strong, possibly severe. Keep an eye on them for you. But they're out of here Saturday, and we have a pretty decent weekend and another warm week ahead of us, pushing near 80 for the first full week of November next week.
All right, what do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, more companies are launching apps and tests to let patients deliver their own health care at home. In Health Watch, how connected care on our smartphones is growing. Plus, a local veterans ministry, Charlie 22, expands into new office space. It's going to give it more space for the needs of veterans. And former prisoner transport officer pleads guilty to sexually assaulting a female detainee in Joplin. More on those stories, and of course the double death investigation in Joplin coming up on KOAM News at 5.
All right, thank you, Dow. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.